But I think that we have the answers inside. We have the ability to heal ourselves. We have all of this. We have it. Instead of picking up the book or looking, it's like sitting, accessing what your heart is speaking to you.
Welcome back to another episode of Voices of the Goddess, where brilliant women come to take a break from their successful and sometimes overwhelming lives to level up, live free, and create abundance.
If your hectic life has you feeling a bit lost, if you're building your career, brand, or business, or if you simply want to get the most out of life, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Julietta Wenzel, founder of Body and Soul PT and Soul Candy.
And I'm your co-host, Graciela Laurent, professional portrait photographer specializing in boudoir and personal branding.
Whether you're relaxing with a cup of coffee or running around town, we've got you.
Whatever you're doing, thanks for bringing us along and sharing a laugh.
Here comes the magic.
I had to do that after you said that the last show. Yeah, I don't know if wooing is really our brand. I don't know. Some days it is, some days it's not. I don't know. Since we started this whole cacao journey, I am like energized, right? Energized completely. So, I can't stop myself from wooing. I totally get it, though. I feel the same way. As a matter of fact, this morning I started my kids off on a little bit of cacao, just like a half dose, a half of a half. They're 14, so nobody call, HRS or whoever that is. But chocolate, I'm so like, yeah. People feed their kids such far worse things. Yeah. This is true. But anyway, it's I'm really curious to pick them up after school and see how their day went. And I'm curious to hear little ADHDers, and they got energy, they got to like regulate, so it'll be really cool. Absolutely. And I will also say, like, I'm attributing all of my excess energy to the cacao. But the other new thing that I've started, I've been doing this hot yoga for a couple months now. And I've been impressed. You've been like posting pictures like often. You've been doing it. I have been doing it. I don't post pictures every time. In the beginning, I was posting every time. I don't post every time I go. Although the owners of the studio, I'm ready for them to give me a free membership because all of my posting has brought many people to their studio. But the truth of the matter is I've been posting to, like, that's been my own thing to do two things. A, to keep me accountable and keep me going, because I'm not going to say I love it, but I like it. But it would be so easy some days to just be like, I don't feel like going. And then, you do that one day. Yeah. And then it just turns into the habit that you're not going anymore. So posting is to partially to keep me accountable. And the other side of it is for me to like it more. Like, community and support helps. And so I just want to publicly thank everybody who's shown up and gone to yoga with me. It's made it so much more fun and interesting, and yeah, it helps keep me accountable and keps me going. So I will tell you, as an observer on social media, because I have yet to go to this class, it's on the list. I have like all the stuff. I just need to fit it into my life right now. I'm trying to finish my cacao course first because I officially want to get my certificate there so that then I can teach it and whatnot. But not that I couldn't teach it anyway, but you know what I mean. But I've really enjoyed watching how people show up to be with you. I think it's such a, number one, you're inspiring them to do something for themselves, but also what a huge compliment for you that people want to support you like that. Like, that must feel like a little present every day that somebody does that for you. Absolutely. And I'll share a little bit. I won't say any names, but someone showed up that I was a little bit surprised that this person decided to show up. And I also knew this person is a yogi, and the kind of yoga that I'm doing it's all on the floor. There's no handstands. There's no yoga craziness in this Raja yoga that I'm doing. And I knew, because this person, she does all of the handstands and the crazy poses, and she's amazing. So I knew this class was not going to be her favorite thing.
And as we're laying there doing it, I'm very energy sensitive, and I can feel how much she's not liking the class.
Aw.
And when it was all done, I said to her, that was difficult for you to sit through that, wasn't it? And she's like, yes, but whenever it was difficult, I just reminded myself of my intention of coming here. And I was like, what was that? And she said, my intention was friendship.
Oh,
I
how
was like,
beautiful.
I almost started crying right there. I was like, it just touched my heart so much.
That's
And
beautiful. I mean, if that's not the best reason to do something, right?
yeah. So she ain't coming back to this class because this class ain't her thing. But she's like, when you're ready to do the other classes, you let me know and I'll be here with you.
That's really cool. And you know what? It's a journey, and we get to experience a little bit of everything. And what you like today, you might not like tomorrow. And we get to keep evolving and keep pushing and trying and, just moving, right? Like whoever invented sitting still, I don't know, because nothing on earth sits still, not even Earth.
Earth does not sit still, but there are times like I'm so okay with sitting. Like sometimes I think I was really meant to be like a Buddhist monk or something like that, a Tibetan monk, just sitting in a cave, meditating endlessly. That doesn't sound awful to me.
Have you read Cave in the Snow? Please tell me you have read that.
I have not read Cave in the Snow.
Oh my gosh. Cave in the Snow, absolutely amazing book about a woman who went into a cave in the snow and emerged a really long time later. I read this book, maybe it's got to be over 20 years now. Yeah, probably over 20 years ago. But to this day, I still remember how impactful it was. You should read it. Cave in the Snow. Book recommendation for today. That's a freebie for you all.
Awesome. All right. Enough about us. Let's bring our guest on. All right.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the show.
Dr. Christen Scott, the happiest, peppiest doctor ever. Look at her.
I'm like looking like at awe at the chair that she's sitting in. It's so beautiful. It's perfect for a goddess like you.
It's a goddess chair. I used to call it a queen chair, but now it's going to be termed the goddess chair.
I love it.
Time for an upgrade, Kristen. It's time for an upgrade.
It is a chair for a woman of power, for sure. Welcome. Graciela and I know you, but our audience does not. So will you please take a few minutes and introduce yourself, tell them who you are, what you do, and what keeps you passionate about what you do?
Sure, absolutely. I'm so excited to be here. I'm Dr. Christen Scott, and I'm known as the yoga shrink. That's my passion, is yoga and incorporating yoga philosophy, breath work, mindfulness into mental health treatment, personal development, that sort of thing. So I originally trained as a clinical psychologist and worked in the DC area, high power, worked with a lot of teenagers, a lot of high risk teenagers for about 10 years in the DC area. And I basically found yoga myself for my own healing, transformation. It was emotional. What brought me to yoga? A lot of times it's either an emotional or physical, something sort of brings you onto the mat. And for me, it was a divorce. I was going through a divorce, and I found the mat and found more transformation on the mat than I found in traditional psychotherapy. So I was like, oh, I need to learn how to do this and bring this to people, because if it's helped me this much, I can't imagine what it can do for others. And so that's sort of how it all began, and did lots of trainings in yoga and meditation and that sort of thing. And then my husband and I at the time decided to, just close up shop in the DC area and head down to South Florida and create a whole new life, create a yoga community. And so that's how I ended up in South Florida. That's how I ended up meeting you guys. And so my work is basically, I teach yoga, but I also really do a lot of personal development work with people. I call it counseling, coaching. It's much more than therapy, because what we really look at is the concepts are really that you're perfect and that there's nothing to fix. And that's a little bit different than traditional psychotherapy that likes to label you and put you in a box and say, okay, you have this label and you need this medicine. And there's nothing, again, I'm going to say there's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like this allows more expansion. It allows more about the inner healer to come out. People, I believe, know what it is that they need. And I sort of just am the guide to sort of help them access that. So that's kind of a little bit of about who I am, and what keeps me passionate is just helping people create their best lives. Really, that's what keeps me passionate, is just helping everybody realize that we're not all these thoughts up here. we're so much more than that. And I just love working with people and helping them, kind of see how amazing they are.
Well, you could definitely see the passion in the way that you talk and the way that you show up. I mean, you're literally glowing. It could just be the great ring light too. I don't know. But, I tell people a lot, like sometimes I feel like some personal development work takes you so much faster than traditional therapy. And I love my therapist, and I wouldn't discount anything that a traditional therapist does, because everybody's like in a different place in a different, way. But I kind of feel like this is like a superpower version of getting to where you want to be, right? Because you're combining the traditional with, I don't even know what to call it. I'd hate to call it alternative because it's more traditional than the traditional, right?
Exactly.
I just think that's really powerful. What most of your clients come to you saying what's like the biggest reason?
Oh, it definitely ranges. Sometimes people are stuck. I get a lot of stuck, or what I was doing wasn't what I wanted to be doing. I feel like, I want to move out of a certain situation. It's usually something that, like, I've tried different things and I'm stuck in this situation. There's also a lot of anxiety, just a lot of worries, concerns, and unable to really deal with it, like sleep disturbances. It tends to be a lot what people would call stress, but stress that's really impacting their day-to-day lives. I'll get a lot of that kind of thing. So it could be just life circumstances, but people are finding that the way that they're handling it isn't working. So looking for something else. Most of the people that come to me do know me, have some background in yoga. Not everybody, but they just have found me that way. So there is some familiarity with yoga, but I'm not doing like physical asanas, during my meetings, but a lot of times people will find me that way.
Nice. And I love that you talked about how most people look at yoga as just physical exercise, and there's so many layers to yoga. It encompasses everything. And that's one of the things that I love about the place that I go to, is while we're doing the physical part of the yoga, they're also teaching us the other aspects of yoga, which makes a big difference. And I'm not going to say my judgy little Julietta gets a little upset when I look at some of these yoga places that are essentially just like an exercise studio.
Yeah, I know. And I think that's what it is for me. I've been always talking about off the mat and into your life. Like that's what I've always said is, that, a lot of times people think of yoga and we think of it as the physical practices, the asanas. Most people don't know that yoga has 8 limbs. It's the 8-limbed path. And, there's asana, which is one of them, the physical practice. There's meditation. There's pranayama, which is, breath control. And we know that the breath is a direct line to the nervous system. So there are breaths that can activate our, parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest, that can calm us, that can bring us out of a panic attack. And I'll tell people, and it doesn't have the side effects that a Xanax has. We have everything we need within us. And sometimes we forget that, or we're told that we need something outside of us. And so I feel like the 8 limbs of yoga really there's so much that we can access. And I think of like the yamas, which are, like ethical standards. And the first one is ahimsa. And most people know that it's nonviolence. So most people think, oh, yogis, they don't eat meat, nonviolence. And it's like, yes and no. Because ahimsa it's what about like violent thoughts that we have about ourselves? What about judgment? And so that's the kind of stuff that like I will bring into the work that I'm working with people. it's so much more than, it's just so much more than the physical practice that, that's such a passion of mine to let people know, there's so much more here. There's contentment, there's self-study, there's so much, as I know, Julietta, because I know that you've studied yoga, and so I do think that this is something that I really like to bring into the work when I'm working with people.
I also love that you say too, that the person has everything that they need within them, and you're just there to guide them. And that might be easier for people to think about when we're talking about the mind, but it's true of the body as well. And our society has programmed us in our medical world is like, you go to have someone fix you, like you're going to have the oil changed on your car. And I tell people all the time, like, you're coming to me with your back pain, but I'm not going to heal your back pain. You're going to heal your back pain. I'm just going to show you the way to get there. There is no way for me to heal you. I can't heal you. Only you can heal you. I can give you some tools and I might use my hands, but even when I'm putting my hands on you, that's not me healing you. That's just helping guide your body to its own healing. And I think that's something that society in general is starting to embrace. And, but the Western medical model has definitely really put a wrench in people's healing.
Absolutely. And I think, I have friends will talk about like even meetings with doctors, and it's like, they said this, so I'm going to do this. And I'm like, what do you mean you're going to do this? Like, it's like, I'm like, you are choosing what's right for you, and I think that in mental health, it's so important in health. And I think it's so important in mental health because it's like a lot of times people are coming in and they're feeling like vulnerable or they don't know what to do. And so they're turning their power over. And so I think it's so important to be like, you do know, you know what I mean? And like, I'm going to help you access that as opposed to you giving me your power. And then it's like, let me give you my power and give you my power, as opposed to saying, okay, we're going to work collaboratively, which is how I feel when I'm going into a doctor, into a medical profession. I'm always like, okay, we're going to work collaboratively. They may not always approach it that way, but that's how I am. And I agree that I think it's so important that people understand that there's nothing to fix. And they're going to heal anything, that they're going to be able to access their optimal health, their optimal, it's like, it's helping them access this pathway that already exists. And so, I'm just right there with you, Julietta. Absolutely.
It blows my mind that these truths have existed for thousands of years. And then it took all of like 100 years to screw it all up, right? Like, all of a sudden, like it took no time at all to put a whole series of lies together and sell it to 3 generations of people. And all of a sudden we forget that we are incredibly powerful beings, that we are capable of all of these things. And so everything starts sounding woo-woo. And it's like, wait a minute, this is not the new thing. You're the new thing, right?
Yeah.
This thing has always been here. And so I feel like it's such a uphill climb, right, for practitioners such as yourself to go back and be like, look, this is something that's been true for thousands of years, like,
Absolutely. It's so true. And the other thing with yoga too is a lot of the times yoga will have you look at like the opposing, like a lot of times with our thinking, we'll go to a thought and yoga will say, well, what's the opposing thought of that? Like, and everyone now is talking about gratitude. And that's what it was. There was something that happened like to you, and it was like something that may have been more negative or dark or, something that was on the negative. And it was like in yoga, a lot of times it's like, look at accessing what's the opposite of that, or accessing something like the yin and the yang, you know what I mean? And now everyone's talking about the attitude of gratitude. That's like become such a big thing where in yoga philosophy, that's been going on forever. It's like looking for the good, not necessarily like washing it all over, but also looking for that peace. And I think it's so interesting now when I turn on social media and it's like every day I can find somebody speaking about gratitude, which is incredible because we all, I mean, the more the better, because I think, people, this is helpful. We all know that. We think about something we're grateful for and it's like immediately there's a shift physically, emotionally, mentally.
But yeah, the fact that people think that this is something new, that's the funny part.
It is funny. It is. Absolutely.
And at some point it was new for you, I presume. I don't know, maybe you grew up in this life, but having been trained in a particular way, what limiting beliefs did you have to let go of to find the truth of where you are today? Like, how did you get there?
Well, I think a lot of it, it's really a great question because I remember being in therapy and being a therapist in DC. And my therapist said to me, she was the best therapist. She was super non-traditional. And she's like, can we get out of your head and get in your heart? Can we go from here to here? And I was like, what are you speaking of? Like, I didn't even understand what she meant. And I was always trying to figure things out. And I think that for me, I came to yoga in grad school. I came to yoga and it was like, no, wait a minute. I don't need to figure things out from here. I can come from here. And I think my biggest limiting belief was that I need to know. I need to know. I need to learn. I need to know. I need to know more. I always used to get I need to study more. And I think that was a big thing where I have an inner knowing, kind of like, I guess this is the theme, like an inner healer, an inner teacher. I had an inner knowing. And if I could drop from here to here, then the way that I could show up for people and the way that I could show up in the world was so different. And I have to say, it was yoga that really allowed me to get out of my head and into my body and get into my heart and eventually get into my soul, because that's what yoga is. It's the connection. It's the connection, mind, body, soul, connection with divine, whatever you want to. And I think that I was so separate. It was like this and the head and the body. And now it's like, not at all. I think that was my biggest limiting belief, was just I needed to know, and that, I needed to know from my head. So now I think that's been a big, and I did not grow up in that kind of an environment. I mean, I grew up in an Italian home. We were very emotional, but it was not, it wasn't kind of this yogi, type of lifestyle. So it definitely was something that I found, and yeah, what a game changer.
I know you like books, and I know you really like one book, so I don't know if that's going to be your book. But so share with us, our audience, what book you would recommend for them to read and why.
Okay, well, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And the reason I say that is because I just feel like it's just such this little gem, but it really helps us see how we suffer, like how our thoughts make us suffer, how our beliefs are not really our beliefs, are things that we have taken on from society, from our parents. And I feel like it's a book about freedom and breaking through, because when we're able to look at our beliefs and we're able to look at things that aren't serving us and then let them go and have new, you know what I mean? It's just been amazing to me. And I feel like it's a book that I teach about. It's a book that when clients work with me, I'm like, all right, you got to read it or listen to it, because I use it so much. And the four agreements in there, are amazing. Be impeccable with, I'll give it a spoiler, be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your best. And when you really sort of get into them and really get into them and look at them in your daily life, it is just amazing in terms of how often we do it. And it's not really to stop doing it. It's about awareness, which is what yoga is, right? It's all about awareness. And with awareness, then we have choice. And so I think this book is boom, it just opens your mind and you're more aware of the things that are creating suffering that they're not even yours. You can literally let them go. So I love so many books, but I have to mention that book because it's my book. It's just been an amazing tool for me.
And thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, it's a tiny little book. There's no excuses not to read this book.
I know. I know.
And it's so simple and so powerful in its simplicity. Like,
Yes.
yes, it's a beautiful tool that anyone can use. Like, you want to get on the spiritual path, but you think it's too much and it's da da da. That's like the quick, easy start, I think.
It is. You're right. It absolutely is.
Probably my kids are about the right age for it. They're I have 14-year-old twins. And the other day, my daughter was like, somebody was messaging her and she just needed like a break from the messaging. And so she was like, but if I don't reply, they're going to think XYZ. And I'm like, girl, red flag, stop right there. You don't know what anybody's thinking. Like, don't put their thoughts in your head. Like, you can't do that,
Absolutely.
And I would love to her to hear it from a separate source because, I'm mom, right? So like, there's this weird part in motherhood where you go from being like an absolute god to like an idiot.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so insidious. Like, you don't realize where it's happening, This morning, I was like, what's wrong? And she goes, this is just my face. And I'm like, I beg to differ. I made that face and I know the faces. What's going on? It's really interesting. But yeah, I mean, is there like a teen version of that?
No, there isn't. And I do know a bunch of, it's funny because I did a course for a family it was really cool because it was like these teenagers were high-end like hockey players. And it was like the family was all over. They were in Canada. They were all over the place. And we did like a family for agreements. Like, we did it as a family and we taught the high-end athletes all of these things. And they were like, they were 13, 14, 15, and they were totally able to read it and get it. And I do know other teenagers that really are able to, it's simple enough for them to, to use it. And I thought it was really amazing because I thought, wow, what a great thing to give these athletes, like these kids, like, don't make assumptions, don't take things personally. Like, I mean, it's amazing. I know. And I definitely think teenagers could, I mean, if I knew this book, like, it's huge.
Where was this when I was a teenager? My God. It was probably
absolutely
right on the shelf,
Exactly.
I love that we get to do this, and I love that we get to have this conversation and just put it out there. This is why, like, people have brought this book up before, and Juliana and I talk about this all the time. Like, it's great. The more people bring it up, the better. Like,
right.
One day it'll be the day that it's yours day to hear it, and so I love that.
And it's true. I heard it a couple times before I read it. Like, and I'm like, I think it was, maybe it was someone who said it and I was like, yeah, whatever, and then, but then when things keep coming up, then you're like, wait a minute, let me investigate this a little bit more. It's like we resist what we really need or what we could really use. Yep. So true.
Oh man. So the show has been full of juicy nuggets, but I know you got something more in you. So what would you like to leave our audience with as a parting gift?
Juicy nuggets. I think we really talked about a lot of things. I think it's, I believe that we're spiritual beings on a human journey, and I think really connecting with the truth of who we are, aligning, whatever that means, like aligning with who we truly are. For me, it's yoga, it's being in nature. For some people, it's going to the ocean. For some people, it's praying, I think that we have the answers inside. We have the ability to heal ourselves. We have all of this. We have it. And I think that it's, how do we, it's finding a way to access it. It's finding your way. I think that's the nugget, is instead of looking always outside, and I say this for everybody as much as I say it for myself, instead of picking up the book or looking, it's like sitting, accessing what your heart is speaking to you. It's like really giving yourself time and to connect with the bigger part of you. And I would just encourage people to do that, to just keep exploring until they find what that is that does align them. And like I said, yoga, you mentioned meditation at the beginning, sitting in a cave. For some people, it's that. It could be sitting at the ocean. It could be being with animals, being with your dogs, being with, but usually nature, animals, you know what I mean? Like things that like connect us. It's usually not technology. It's usually not material things. But really aligning yourself with your, getting out of your head and getting into your heart. It's changed my life. And I think that would be my nugget, because there isn't anything wrong with us and there isn't anything to fix. And I think if we can come from that space, then there'd be a lot of love and a lot of peace.
And if you are feeling stuck, if you are feeling like, oh, that sounds really good, but I have no idea where to start or what to do, please jump into our Circle of Goddesses Facebook group. Christen will be there. She can help answer questions. Julietta and I are always there. And so you are never alone, and you already have everything inside of you that you need. It really is that simple. And if it feels like it's not, reach out and let us help you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It was wonderful having you on the show, Christen.
Oh, thank you both. Thank you so much.
Great to meet everyone.
Gonna wish you all a magical day.
Thanks for joining us today and keeping us in the top 10% of podcasts in the world. Ask us how you can promote your business on this podcast as a sponsor, and make sure you check out the show notes for details on how to get in touch with Julietta, Graciela, or today's special guest.
We're sending you lots of love and gratitude. Have a magical day.